Welcome back to the studio. Emma and I are doing something a little bit fun today. So we've already started work on our first room, the library, and a video will come out for that later. But in the meantime, we wanted to do a mood board for the whole house and thought that might be a fun thing to see and do and create. We'll be talking about homes, buildings, rooms within other buildings, things that inspire us and our decorating style, as well as songs with certain moods that we aim to embody or people we want to emulate in our home. We touched on this a little in the previous video when we introduced Pallas Hall, but this one is going to be more in depth. So we will definitely revisit the Bennett house, but there will be a ton of other things as well. So here are some categories and things that really round us out, and Emma will introduce them to you.
Yes, I will. In no particular order, we are going to walk through each location or item, acknowledging why we love it so much and how it will be influencing our choices. Now, to organize a somewhat lengthy list, we've grouped together the locations into the following categories: fantasy, myth and legend, magic, ghosts and supernatural stories, just generally creepy, classic literature, real buildings, music artists and albums, miscellaneous living quarters, and visual arts. Let's start with fantasy. We are going to the wizarding world of Harry Potter first. We've got Professor Lupin's office, the Gryffindor common room, and Dumbledore's study.
So we have always loved many of the aesthetics in the wizarding world, but these are probably our favorites. So starting with my personal favorite Professor Lupin, his office is just so warm and cozy, and I love that in the movie, at least during that scene, he was playing jazz, so I think that's definitely something that we just want to, there's going to be lots of learning, but it's like in a cool, fun way, like a hipster way.
Yeah.
For the Gryffindor common room, that's very warm and cozy. The use of red and oranges, those tapestries, it really turns that a drafty old castle into some place that you want to spend a lot of time in. And I think that is definitely what we want to do. Old houses are drafty, maybe not as drafty as a castle, but it's definitely, very similar. And we want that same kind of warmth that, I just want to study, or walk into the room and you're like, yeah, it smells like parchment and tea and a crackling fire. And then Dumbledore's office is also very cozy, but it's maybe more whimsical. Yeah. We've got Fox in there, the Phoenix, all of the paintings of the past headmasters. There are things that are meaningful, but so full of whimsy as well. And I think that's something very important to us. I know that in our vestibule, we are hoping to use this really cool wallpaper that has mythical creatures on it. And a phoenix is one of them. So I just think that would be a nice nod to everything that we love. Our next little subcategory in fantasy is Lord of the Rings, and Emma will be talking more in depth about those.
There are 3 specific locations across Middle-earth that we want to highlight. We've got Bilbo's house in the Shire, Erebor, and Rivendell. We love Bilbo's place because of the Art Nouveau eccentricity. It's underground, under a hill, and it's so cozy and warm. That's definitely already a repeating factor in everything we've chosen. Plus, that lush English-inspired garden out front is so nice. On the other hand, we have Erebor, which is also kind of built into a cave, got that underground feeling, but it's more regal and kind of polished yet dirty at the same time because of the metalworking you have there, but the precious gems that they're mining. Everything is a little green, is so nice. Lastly, we have Rivendell, which also has Art Nouveau influences. I also think the buildings kind of look like cathedrals. They're just so like spindly and long and graceful, and then like nestled in that beautiful scenery with the waterfalls around it. It's just so lovely and picturesque. One more category in fantasy. Can you guess? That's right. It's from the Chronicles of Narnia. Hannah, where are we going next?
Next, we are going to Mr. Tumnus's house. This one is on here because it's our like first taste into Narnia and everything it has to offer. And I loved it because it's like such a nice bridge between the familiar and then also things that are alien. So like Lucy's in there, and there are books and there are paintings and there's armchairs, everything that like we would be familiar with, but like the subjects of those paintings or the books that are on the shelves, there are fauns and there are other mythical creatures, and I just love like I want to like hide some of those things, and like that way anybody who comes over, they have to, you have to look, like I want people to spend time and really curate little moments. Our next category is myth and legend, and our subcategory for that is King Arthur's Chamber from the 1960s film Camelot with Richard Harris and Vanessa Redgrave. Give it a watch.
Good.
But it's kind of similar to Hogwarts and the Gryffindor common room. It's like taking that castle and the cool grays and they're warming it up. So there are pillows and textiles on the floor. You know, it looks very lived in, very like almost, who is that? King Solomon in that painting.
Okay, now we're gonna go Greek. We have a couple famous paintings of Greek figures. We've got Circe and Narcissus. Narcissus? How do we say it?
I think I've always said Narcissus.
Let's start with Circe. There are 3 paintings of Circe, all by John William Waterhouse. These are really well-known paintings, so I'm sure y'all have seen them before, or at least one of them. She's just such an interesting character in mythology, to say the least. Waterhouse's depictions of her demand appreciation because the compositions are really contrasting, but they all have that thread of a similar emotion behind her and through her. The paintings are beautiful, commanding, and really richly detailed to just the right extent. As for Narcissus, characteristically of Caravaggio, plays with light and darkness, and it works really well for this story where he's gazing into his own reflection for hours upon end. I don't necessarily think we are connected as much to that story, but just the emotions that the painting captures. Moving right along, the category is magic.
Now we're going to the house from Practical Magic. Some of our favorite spots in this house and that are serving as big inspirations are the solarium, the kitchen, and really anywhere the ants grace us with their presence. Really fascinated with those 2 lovely, lovely ladies. But I too would love if our house had a kind of mystic appeal and people were like, oh,
yes,
who's out there? Witches or something funky in there. And I want to get in there, but I'm also scared.
Yes.
But in like in a good way. Okay, our next house is very related to this one. Emma, where are we going for this one?
We are going to the Spellman residence in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina universe.
Sabrina, on the eve of your dark
Spellman
baptism.
Sisters Mortuary. We've got a dark, giant old house, 2 oddball sisters who are also aunties, and they've got some extreme style and power. I think maximalism is a big key here. Lots of layering happening. Okay, so we love that house. There's one more magical interior we want to explore.
Yes, so in keeping with the theme of maximalism, we have chosen the kitchen from Howl's Moving Castle. This is just a movie that we really love, a book that I am planning to read this year, and just overall good feelings, and that's a comfort movie for both of us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was like an immediate comfort movie. The first time we watched it, we were like, that was kind of weird, but I need to watch it many more times.
Many more times. So the kitchen. We love that it's got like furniture pieces. It's earthy, and I like that it was messy first and then it gets clean, and I kind of like it both ways. But also, and maybe it's just because in all of those films the food looks so delicious. those slices of bacon, the eggs.
Ain't no food like Studio Ghibli food.
But that's what we want.
What is the next category, Hannah?
Our next category is ghosts and supernatural stories.
Ooh la la. Okay, so we're gonna start off with another absolute favorite show of ours, The Haunting of Hill House. Yes, we still get emotional every time we watch the show. It's kind of hard talking about it because the house is so tied into like the tragic story of the Cranes. That said, it's still a vibe. Again, we're checking a lot of boxes. It's old, it's dark, it's got beautiful woodwork, old furniture, mysterious rooms, and the estate itself is very, shall we say, compelling? I'll leave it at that.
The next world we are visiting is the world of Over the Garden Wall. Another comfort watch for us. We love it, but I think it is the colors that are used, those beautiful autumnal colors.
Yes, kind of what I'm sporting right now.
Yes, absolutely. Oranges, browns, reds, yellows, those things that just make you go, oh yes, it's time to cozy up.
Yes, I'm so warm.
Yeah. But we also love that just like the Spellman residence, Over the Garden Wall, even though it's happening in modern times, like you have this other world, this separate little bubble.
Yeah.
Bubble society, what do I want to say?
Bubble society. I like bubble society.
This separate little world in Over the Garden Wall. I love that it pulls from those old tombstones that you would see in Salem or around New England at that time, you know, with the skull and the wings on them. I love that it both feels very ancient and old, like with the beast, but at the same time very new and fresh. Yeah, and I think that element of whimsy too is always coming back and very, very important.
Yeah.
So Over the Garden Wall, and hopefully there will be something else about Over the Garden Wall, but that's just like a teaser for in the future. Our next spooky location is
The Haunted Mansion.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
We rewatched this fairly recently as well, and it's safe to say some of it still scared us.
Yeah.
Like the crypt. Come on. Come on.
I think it scared me more this time. And then also when Eddie Murphy is like alone and he like looks in the mirror and he's himself and then he looks back and he's like, you know, decaying and dead. That really messed with me as a...
It's the existential stuff that is messing with us now.
Okay.
I know it's probably weird to like the seance room and some of the more like witchy supernatural things, but they're really cute. They're really pretty. And who doesn't want a crystal ball? Like a really beautiful crystal ball as a prominent feature in a room. Come on. So those are the elements I'd like to take.
The last place that we will go in ghosts and supernatural stories is Coeur de Coeur in Pushing Daisies, and specifically the sisters, the aunts. They have an old Victorian house, and I want to say that this is more Queen Anne, if memory serves me correctly. So that has a lot of those little teeny tiny details.
Yeah, it's very detailed.
Yeah, this house is a lot brighter than the other things on our list.
Yeah.
But we also like love how vibrant it is.
Yeah.
And I think...
And it really brings those details out of the house.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that we're going to have to balance between our wanting to be moody and dark and then also wanting to like celebrate life and all of its brightness. Yeah, Pushing Daisies, the town, and their house specifically. We're on to our next category, which is just generally creepy. Emma, where are we going?
We are exploring a Shirley Jackson novel and film adaptation. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. More sisterly bonds, more old houses, beautiful estates and gardens. This is just a natural fit for the list. I particularly love the outside of the estate.
I can totally see you being Constance too, because she spends so much time like in the garden. That's her thing. So there's Constance like in the garden, and then there's Merricat, who is going and burying things in the yard. Because
it's part of like her spells though.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, part of her.
I'd like to be Constance, but like not the like fear of leaving the house. Are you telling me something?
Not at all. Oh, no.
Moving on.
The next person we are visiting is Christine McConnell. Everything that she does is so meticulous and thought out. It is such a pleasure to watch her work. And then also just so pleasing to the eye to see the finished products. So we originally found her on Netflix for her baking show with her puppets, and that was really wonderful. But then we ended up starting to watch her YouTube and became patrons too. We love that everything she touches, everything that she has a hand in, becomes so elegant but spooky, but still inviting. So like I'm thinking about that one guest bedroom with the canopy, the luxurious brown canopy, and the wallpaper is done in the Victorian style, but it's got the rats and the is it bats? Rats and bats, and I think some people would be like but it's done in such a good way that it just makes you want to spend time in there. So she is a big inspiration, and I hope that our house will have an ounce of
her amazing skills and creativity. Just her ability to have this vision and actually see it through to that level of professionalism and vibrance is so inspirational for us.
We're going back to places.
They're creepy and they're kooky. It's the Addams Family. We actually kind of prefer the original Addams Family house, not the 90s movies, the show from the 60s. It's a little warmer, not as decrepit, a little bit more loved, we'll say.
The house right now is giving 1990s Addams Family house.
Yes, it sure is.
But that's not what we want for her.
No.
Ultimately.
No.
Not ultimately, The next area we're going to is M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. So we really just like all of the use of the textiles, the florals. Everything is very obviously homemade. It's got the loving touch of, a grandma or your mom. Like things are getting passed down in the hope chest. We really love that feeling, and I think that's something that's very important to us, and we would like to carry on as we tackle the house. So that is a big mood, a big mood.
It's so intentional. Like I have had to spend hours doing this, and it's because I love you.
Or because I need it.
Moving on to the category of classic literature. We are starting with another favorite film adaptation of a novel, A Room with a View. This movie in itself has so many beautiful, sweeping vistas and just wonderful captures of the Italian countryside and the English countryside. But one specific location we want to focus on is the Sacred Lake.
This is the Sacred Lake.
We love this because obviously water is the forefront. Hannah and I are both really big water babies. We love a water feature. But it's balanced by really beautiful and just naturally growing and thriving plants around it. It's just so lush and inviting. You get that feeling of coolness on a hot summer day. This is really inspiration for our backyard, which does have a little pond in it already, so we can really play right into that, and we're very excited to work on that.
Next, we are going to visit the world of Jane Austen, and specifically the movie adaptation from 2020, I think it was.
So.
But Emma.
It's me.
Yes.
I was actually named for her.
Yes. You got the good name. Anyway. Yes, okay, so Emma, and specifically the scene where they're having Christmas dinner, which, fun fact, is also the same location as Trenwith from Poldark.
Ross Poldark. Sorry, I had to.
Okay. But again, it's that feeling of cozy. We talked about this in introducing Pallas Hall, that we wanted our community to be with us, friends, and we're sharing meals together by candlelight, so it's intimate.
Yeah, like really just romanticized dining experiences with friends and family.
Yeah, so that it basically turns out to be a French salon where we're just sharing ideas and thoughts, philosophies.
So staying in the Jane Austen verse, Pride and Prejudice, of course. I will say, obviously the 2005 movie, but also the 1995 show. I think there's elements in there too that we love. Especially the feeling of Darcy coming out of the water. I don't know how I can get that into the house, but like I want that.
Our last place that we're going is in the book realm of Sense and Sensibility. So we're still with Jane Austen and still in classic literature. But just like Pride and Prejudice and Emma, this is again that very like worn, lived in feeling. Home can be anywhere that you put your heart and your time and your energy. Your love. Our next category is real buildings.
Our first stop is the Mark Twain House in Hartford, Connecticut. I just feel like this is one house where you could keep going back and seeing something different every time. There's so many layers and intricacies, and you have to go on a guided tour. So you only have a certain amount of time in each room, which is really hard for us. We are always the last people out of the group. We just spend as much time as we possibly can taking in, just admiring the general splendor. There's so many little vignettes in this house that we could take inspiration from. Even just the outside, like the porte cochere where people would arrive and make their grand entrance. Speaking of which, the entrance into the home is jaw-dropping. The dining room, his study, his office. There's just so many places that we can draw from. I think as we get further along in our house, we will try and be more specific about what elements we are choosing to pull from.
Our next real building is Todd in Sarasota, Florida. This mansion was built in 1926 and served as the winter home.
Just the winter home?
Yeah, just the winter home.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, these people were so rich.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it served as the winter home to John and Mabel Ringling of the Ringling Brothers Circus. So that is where a lot of their money came from. But anyway, this house is beautiful and it's got Moorish and Spanish details and the architecture is phenomenal. It sits right on Sarasota Bay. This is just like the Mark Twain house. Literally could spend hours in there. And because it's built in 1926, one of my favorite features is the secret room for bootlegging. John had his secret stash and it was like there's a secret entrance and everything, and that is one of my
I do not remember that.
Wow.
Just have to go back, I suppose.
Similar to Kadzan is the Tampa Theater. Yeah.
I love the Tampa Theater.
The Tampa Theater was also built in 1926, so it has a lot of those same architectural details. This one is maybe my favorite one because I have spent a lot of time there, and so is Emma. Seeing films, but also being a part of the International Thespian Society when we were in high school growing up, because we would see shows. One of my favorite features is that the sky, is that the ceiling...
It's so realistic. You're acting like it's the real sky.
Is that the ceiling in the theater is a beautiful like indigo night sky with stars that shoot across. It transports you immediately to a different world, a different time. There are lush red velvet seats and it's just...
I mean, also beautiful. Like the organ that comes out of the floor.
Yes.
Before certain showings.
Yeah, the Wurlitzer.
Oh God, it's so cool.
I think it made me feel like I was close to, I was like Phantom of the Opera level there at the Tampa Theater. It's just one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. It feels spooky, but also
there are some ghost stories, I think.
Oh, there are definitely in the bathrooms. But anyway, I digress. I love the Tampa Theater. We love it, and that's a big inspiration for us.
Okay, the next real building is a very large building. It is the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. This just as a whole is so symbolic of what we're trying to do in our own home. We want to be curators of just a really wonderful experience for guests. Obviously for us, just living there, we want to be like, wow, yes, I love each piece we've chosen here. And it's here in this spot for a reason. I think that's enough said. Moving right along to the category of musical artists and albums. First up, this feels like an obvious choice to me, is Hozier. He's bluesy, whimsical, evocative, and his melodies and songs are just so poetic and exploratory. The constant allusions he's making to different figures and characters and moments in literature just gives you so much to chew on. Yeah, we could honestly go through each Hosier song and talk about how it is inspiring our house, but that would probably be way too long of a video. So we'll just shout out the man on his own.
The man,
Hosier.
the
The
myth,
man, the myth,
the legend.
Hosier.
The bog witch. Another musician that we are drawn to is Joshua Alampour. We found him on Instagram. He plays the piano, and I think it's just like the whole vibe. The music is always wonderful, but it's also the way in which he plays and like sits down and the video plays out. So he goes and he swishes his like coattails, so it gives a nice little phantom cape kind of dramatic flair. And then there are also candles that are dripping and like stuck on the piano, and he's playing by candlelight, and so it's always moody and warm and just like very everything that you could ever want.
Okay, next is like the partner to Hosier, I would say. I don't want to go assigning any gender roles or anything, so I'll just say like the lyric has the same presence, the same effect on people. Florence Welch. We too would like to call upon the ancient ones for strength and guidance, the way she seems to do in every banger she puts out, right? Pallas Hall will be where we swing our bloody swords.
Lastly, in the music category is the album Tales of Mystery and Imagination from the Alan Parsons Project. So this is the Alan Parsons Project first album, and it's inspired completely by Edgar Allan Poe and his works. So the reason why we love it, it calls on Edgar Allan Poe, who is such a pillar in Gothic and spooky time feelings. So it's so beautiful to listen to. The stories are wonderful, and we really love how that has been crafted. But maybe the most surprising and inspiring part is that in the second half of the album, it basically turns into a ballet that revolves around the fall of the House of Usher. I have not heard anybody do that before in like kind of a rock album. Like, that's just really dang cool. But it's ethereal, it's scary, it's haunting, it's epic, it's sweeping. Everything we want our home to feel like.
The second to last category is miscellaneous living quarters. We've already talked about him a little bit, but now is his time to shine.
You're right.
We have the Phantom of the Opera and his lair beneath the Paris Opera House. Hannah was so obsessed with this movie when we were younger. She dressed up as the Phantom one year for Halloween, and nobody knew who she was. They thought she was a jester or something. It was horrible. Yeah, it was kind of sad. Also, I mean, who doesn't want to take a sexy little boat ride into the circular swan bed? Am I right? I think that's everything you need on that little journey right there.
Another little area is the carriage house and the solarium from Sabrina from the 90s with Harrison Ford and Julia Ormond. We love how cozy it is in the carriage house. And truthfully, it's much more to our taste than like the big mansion with where the rich people is. Yeah, than the Larrabee's mansion. Like that's just, but we just know that it smells like old books, fresh laundry, savory meals, and floral perfume in there. Like the Sacred Lake, the solarium is there for all of that greenery, to have that, those, again, it's like a very sensory, a sensual experience.
Next up, we have the Brownstone from the Royal Tenenbaums, another one of our all-time favorite movies. Wes Anderson. He really packs every frame with so many textures and layers, and
feast your eyes.
It really is a feast each time. Sometimes it's a bit like too much for me. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm full, I have feasted so much. Anyways, the closet full of board games. That is something that is very common in our families and friends, is to have oodles of board games. And so just that little moment that Wes Anderson chose to include in the movie says a lot about the family, and we like that.
We had also put Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day, that movie, and The Apartment. Again, it's Art Deco style, so we're just really responsive to anything like that. Moving on to the very last category, visual artists. Yes, we finally made it.
We made it.
Visual artists, we're taking cues from obviously Waterhouse, like we mentioned earlier with Circe, but also Degas, Monet, and Manet. We really love the Impressionist movement, but these are the Impressionists that we like really respond to and maybe hold in the highest esteem for us personally.
Yeah.
So I think just wanting to have things be like fuzzy and maybe farther away you see the whole picture, but closer in you're drawn in and you see like different things. That's something that we would like to emulate.
Next is a modern artist. His name is Salman Tor, and this is somebody Hannah actually found a couple years ago, and we've both just been in love and following his work ever since. It's a world of green, and it always depicts love, friendship, finding connection, or maybe missing connections in this modern world. But it always is a social scene. So I think, again, that just plays right into the feeling we want to evoke and encourage in our house.
Lastly is William Morris. He has become very popular lately.
Yeah.
Like really, really popular. There's a resurgence in patterns for wallpapers, for rugs. I think there's something for Ruggable. I see Instagram ads for.
And we were even at Home Goods, and there was like bedding and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know what like the estate of William Morris, what type of deals they're forging, but they're doing something.
But for good reason. I mean, these are really wonderful Victorian era prints and patterns. And then also William Morris is just kind of cool because in addition to being an artist, he was also an author. He wrote kind of fantasy novels and short stories, which is really cool. And I think that comes to life, and you can see those influences and that passion come through in the designs that he chose for more like a home setting.
So that is it for our massive mood board. I still have the feeling we didn't get to absolutely everything. These are the real highlights. We know we won't actually be checking each thing off on this list here as we go, oh yes, this is how we got Miss Pettigrew into our house, or things like that. But just as a general mood board, which is how we're really approaching this, I think we've got a lot to go off, and we can just dive right in and explore. Maybe one day our house will find its way onto somebody else's mood board. That would be pretty cool. We'd love to hear what your favorite homes or locations or just any other artists or anything like that that really inspires who you are. And also if you're working on a house, anything for your house. Leave us a comment and let's get that conversation started. Thank you so much for watching. As always, be kind to yourself and to other people. We'll see you in the next video.